A couple of days ago, Movies and Munchies and I discussed the Neverending Story and how it messed up our childhood somewhat. This got the creative juices flowing and made me want to delve deeper into the darker themes of the Neverending Story. The Neverending Story, the 1984 fantasy classic that captured the imagination of children and adults alike. But behind its whimsical creatures, magical lands, and sweeping adventures lies a much darker tale, a story rich with existential dread, profound loss, and the fear of nothingness. Let's start with the most pervasive and unsettling theme in the Neverending Story, the concept of nothingness. But this isn't just any void. It's a creeping, consuming force that erases everything in its path. The nothing is more than just a physical threat. It represents nihilism, the existential fear that life is meaningless, that everything we know and love can be swallowed by the void.
Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die.
Remember Rockbiter's heartbreaking monologue? He describes how his friends were taken by the nothing.
The nothing will be here any minute.
Leaving only emptiness in their wake.
They look like good, strong hands, don't they?
It's a haunting reflection of the fear that our existence could be erased without a trace, that our memories and experiences are as fragile as the world of Fantasia itself. As Atreus' journey unfolds, the nothing's power becomes increasingly apparent. It's not just an external force, it's the manifestation of hopelessness, apathy, and despair.
I will just sit here and let it take me away too.
The nothing isn't just about the destruction of a fantasy world. It's a metaphor for the erasure of imagination, dreams, and creativity in our reality. The nothing isn't the only dark element in the story. The Neverending Story is, at its core, a tale about the loss of innocence. Bastian, the protagonist from the real world, starts in the wonders of childhood imagination. However, the film takes him and us on a journey that strips away this innocence.
That's impossible!
From the moment we meet Bastian, we see a boy who is already familiar with loss. His mother is dead.
I had another dream, Dad. About Mom.
I understand, son. But we have to get on with things, right?
And he is alienated from his peers.
Math test. Oh no.
The fantasy world he escapes into isn't just a playground of adventure. It is a coping mechanism for the grief and trauma he can't face in the real world.
No books! I have 186 of them at home.
Ah, comic books.
No, I've read Treasure Island, The Last of the Mohicans, Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Rings, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, Tarzan.
And then there's Artax, the noble steed, and Atreus' loyal companion. The scene where Artax succumbs to the swamps of sadness is one of the most devastating in the film, and if not all films. It's not just the loss of a pet, it symbolizes the crushing weight of depression and how it can take away even the things we love most. For many viewers, especially children, this was an introduction to the harsh reality that not everything has a happy ending. Atreus' journey is symbolic of the painful process of growing up, facing loss, enduring suffering, and realizing that the world is far more complex and often cruel than we first believed.
Artax! Fight against the sadness, Artax!
As the story progresses, another dark theme emerges, the burden of responsibility. Both Atreus and Bastian are thrust into roles that require them to bear the weight of saving an entire world. This isn't your typical hero's journey, where the protagonist eagerly takes on the quest. No, in the Neverending Story, the burden is heavy and the stakes are terrifyingly real. Take, for instance, Atreus' encounter with Mola, the giant apathetic turtle. Here we see Atreus, a young boy, grappling with the enormity of his task. Mola is indifferent to the fate of Fantasia, and her apathy reflects a cold truth. The world doesn't always care about the struggles of the individual. Atreus must carry on despite the overwhelming odds and the apathy of those around him. Similarly, Bastian's realization that he is part of the story, a realization that comes with the weight of responsibility of saving Fantasia. This forces him to confront his fears and insecurities. It's a moment of existential crisis, the discovery that one's actions or inactions have profound consequences. For a child, this this can be a terrifying revelation, as it shatters the illusion that they are merely passive observers in life. One of the most terrifying characters in the film is Gmork, the monstrous wolf-like creature who hunts Atreyu. Gmork is not just a physical threat, he represents the embodiment of despair. His mission is to ensure the success of the Nothing by destroying hope and perpetuating the cycle of despair. Gmork's chilling monologue, in where the film lays bare one of its darkest truths.
Don't you know anything about Fantasia? It's the world of human fantasy.
That those who lose hope are easy prey for the Nothing.
Because people who have no hopes are easy to control.
Despair in this context is the ultimate weapon. It paralyzes, it consumes, and it leads to the destruction of not just individuals, but entire worlds. When Gmork finally confronts Atreyu, it's not just a battle between hero and villain, it's a struggle against the consuming force of despair itself. Atreyu's victory over Gmork is a fleeting triumph, as the Nothing continues to advance, reminding us that the battle against despair is ongoing and relentless. Finally, let's talk about the ending. While Bastian's triumphant reimagining of Fantasia might seem like a return to a happier, lighter tone, it's worth noting that the story's conclusion is far from straightforward. Bastian's ability to rebuild Fantasia is a testament to the power of imagination, but it also places a heavy burden on him. This responsibility to maintain Fantasia now rests on his shoulders. The ending is ambiguous. There's hope, yes, but there's also the recognition that Fantasia's existence is fragile, dependent entirely on the whims of a young boy's imagination. It's a bittersweet conclusion that reminds us of the tedious balance between hope and despair. So while the Neverending Story may end on a note of apparent victory, the darker themes we've explored throughout the film remain ever present, lurking beneath the surface. It's a reminder that even in our happiest moments, the shadows of loss, responsibility, and the fear of the nothingness are never far away. So in conclusion, I guess the Neverending Story is far more than just a children's fantasy film. It's a deeper, layered narrative that explores some of the most profound and unsettling aspects of human experience. By confronting us with themes of loss, despair, and the fear of nothingness, it challenges us to recognize the fragility of our own existence and the importance of imagination in holding back the darkness. So the next time you watch The Neverending Story, remember, behind the surface of this fantastical tale lies a story that's as dark as it is timeless. And perhaps that's what makes it so powerful, because it reminds us that even in a world filled with nothingness, there's always the possibility of creating something new.